Alright, and welcome to the second portion of enumeration for Active Directory. This time we're going to look at, I can't really call it enumeration. We're kind of starting to use Active Directory against itself, just like we did before, but we're starting to kind of use some different tools like Responder, and we're going to drop some files into a share, things like that. We're still not quite attacking the machine, right? We're not quite really, really trying to exploit it. But at this time, we are talking with the machine, so we can definitely get caught utilizing these different tools, especially Responder. But what we'll start off with is we'll go ahead and we'll start off with looking at Responder. And Responder is most famous to be an LLM&R poisoner. It can do a lot more things. I would highly suggest you go ahead and you look up some videos on Responder and see everything they can do and test different things, especially since you have this vulnerable machine now. But we have our domain controller fired up. We are logged in as student with the password student123 ! And all we have to do is we're just going to start Responder here on our machine. So we can just say sudo responder, right, TAC-I, and then what interface do you want to start on. Okay, so I have config. I want to start on 192.168.0.10, so I'm going to use internet 0. So we go ahead and throw that in there. And we're just going to let this just kind of run. Okay, actually, I'm going to go ahead and do a control or TAC V because I've already ran Responder, so it won't actually obtain the same hashes more than once. It does save those hashes, okay, just so you know, and it saves them in the Responder file. So if we actually locate responder.conf, this is probably the easiest way to do it, and you actually do have to mess with this file every once in a while. We can try to do an ls-la on user share responder. Okay, and we can see, let's see here, logs, I believe it is. So we say /logs. And yep, and then we have this log like right here. Okay, and this actually shows you, you can actually cat those different logs and stuff like that. And then they'll actually show you, the old hashes, stuff like that you've obtained throughout time. So if you ever don't want to run with TAC-V, you can always still grab those hashes, right? So let's see with Responder, there's a lot of different things you can do. We can actually poison DHCP if we want to. Right? We can do WPAD stuff. We can make authorization proxy. But what we're going to be looking at today is SMB, right? And LLM&R. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start this up. So we have that. And let's say someone's going to a share, or they restart the computer and their computer calls out to a share, and that share doesn't exist anymore. This is one of the easiest ways to trigger it. So let's go ahead and we'll open up File Explorer here. And we'll just do a quick // anything, actually, HTTP, yep, wrong way, /wrong way, boom, boom, anything or something, it doesn't really matter, text, test, doesn't really matter. We get this little credentials thing, okay, because that's what Windows does, right? Whenever you go into a share that you're not allowed into, it does ask you for credentials. But we see back over here that we've now obtained the hash for the student user. All right, so we can now utilize this hash and we can go ahead and crack it, right? So we can do a quick John hash.text, or let's actually go ahead and echo that into hash.text, right? We'll say John hash.text, and I did already echo the student's password into passwords.text just so we didn't have to go through a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm just going to say passwords.text, and then there we go. We can now see that that is the student's password. That is correct. That's what we put in the login, obviously. But, whenever you have this up and running, you may obtain a lot of hashes from a lot of different users. So continuing on with Responder, we can also upload certain files, right? We can upload SDF files, URL files. There's actually tons of files that you can upload. And some of these do not actually need to be opened for them to send a hash back to a file system. So I built a tool called SMB Killer. So if I do Python smbkiller.py, okay, and if you read the tool, you can see exactly how these different files are made, right? And we're going to put in our host, which is 192.168.0.98. That's our Windows machine, all right? So whatever your Windows machine is there, your domain controller. We're also going to put in our L host, that's us, right? Our interface that we want to listen on, TAC-I, that's 0. The name of the share. Now, if you remember, we had a null share that we could read and write to. So if we go ahead and we do nxc SMB again, boom, 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 right? But we actually had it with a null share, right? So we had it with anonymous. So we can actually just say anonymous, tac p, and then tac shares, right? We can actually see that we had that read and write set common. So the share that we're going to load into is common. Our username is going to be anonymous. Our password is just going to be nothing, right? We're going to run all the files. So if I go ahead and run that Python SMB killer.py, we can see that we can run all of them, URL, SCF, and XML, or we can just pick which one we want to use, right? And then I'm going to give it the domain name. That's the last thing I'm going to give it, cyberrange.local. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter here. We can see that it's making those different files, right? So it made that SCF, XML, and URL file, and it also uploads them to the actual share. So if we go ahead and we head back over to our Windows machine here, and then we hit cancel, right? And we actually go into desktop, cancel that. Actually, I think it's in the C drive to share, this PC, C drive, common. All right, we see these 3 files in here. Now, we have yet to actually open up any of these files, right? However, if I come back over to here, we can see that it is obtaining the hashes for that user that went in there and opened up that folder. Just opened up the folder, and we have obtained the hashes. So now if you were to put those into a folder that, the company uses all the time, you can obtain a lot of hashes as long as they do not have any type of defenses against sending across an SMB hash across the wire like this, which Windows is getting better at. However, we still have to think about legacy systems, so a lot of companies still have yet to implement those different things. So hopefully you all learned something. A lot of these attacks I feel like are super cool, super different, and we can do a lot of things with them. And this could kind of be like our end portion of our enumeration portion of this. We're going to, every single time you move within a Windows computer, so you get to a new computer or you pivot right there, that you restart the entire enumeration process. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with Active Directory, is that just because you ran mmap on one computer doesn't mean that you don't have to run it on the next one or the next one or the next one, right? Especially if you can't reach those other computers. If you can reach them, then yeah, you can run mmap across that range, boom, you got it, right? But every single time you get onto somewhere new, you have to see, okay, what can this user do? What type of privileges do they have? What groups are they in? You need to do that every single place, right? And that's one of the things I think a lot of people within Active Directory actually struggle at, is restarting, because they get excited, they start moving, then they get stuck and they don't think, oh, let me go back to the beginning and start over again, right, on this machine, and then try to do something. So hopefully I'll learn something. Like I said, this is one of the harder sections, but also I always felt one of the more enjoyable sections, Active Directory. I feel like there's so many different things that you can do with it that it's never ending learning. So I will talk to you all later, and next thing we are going to be looking at is starting to abuse privileges, and that's always a fun time, right? So I will talk to you all later.